When he was introducing the man of the hour, I thought, well, I'm really looking forward to hearing that guy. Then it turned out it was me. I'm not the man of the hour, the senator is. And I want to say how grateful we are that he is here tonight and that we have the opportunity to celebrate him and thank him for the extraordinary courage that he has displayed in bringing very vital reforms to the state of Israel. And Senator, we're deeply grateful for the courage, probably not exactly the assignment you thought you were going to be embarking upon, but sometimes we are called in the midst of circumstances, not because we chose a course, but because a course of action chose us. And it becomes very apparent that the circumstances of the reform chose you. And it needed someone who had the will and the resolve. And we know it's put your family through an extraordinary grinder. But how grateful we are that you have stood tall for the future of the people of Israel. I want to express my deep appreciation to my friend Dr. Joe Frager for his long-standing trips to Israel and putting people together and bringing people who have never been before. Jonathan Birkin, who has been very involved in putting this particular trip together. Of course, Rabbi David Katz, who has served in the foundation and been so very instrumental in making this trip come together. All of the various people who we have enjoyed getting to spend time with. It's been mentioned earlier that this is the 50th year of my having been a visitor to Israel. My first trip was in 1973, literally just weeks from this very time that I'm here. The summer of 1973, I was 17 years old. I wanted to say that because I know some of you think, my gosh, you look younger than that. Hey, that wasn't a punchline. It was not supposed to be funny. I was very young, very impressionable. And in that trip, a high school classmate of mine and I made this journey to the Middle East. Honestly, I look back and I'm thinking, what were our parents thinking? We went to Jordan, we went to Lebanon, we went to Cyprus and Greece, and we went to Turkey. We went all over the Middle East. Then we came to Israel, and something happened deep within me in that very first trip 50 years ago this summer. I'd never been here before, but I felt at home in a place I'd never been. I cannot describe why that is other than that it was not political, it was not economic, it was not geographic, it was spiritual. Because I had an understanding that this is the land that God had set aside for his people. 3,800 years ago, when he gave Abraham the title deed to all of Israel and said, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. I'm a simple guy. I believe the book. I'm not Jewish, but I believe the book. And if the book says that those who bless Israel will be blessed, I believe that. And those who curse Israel will be cursed, and I believe that. And that started for me a half century of loving this country and recognizing the extraordinary similarities between the United States and Israel. Both countries having been created by people who escaped the galloping terror of tyranny and wanted their families to live in freedom and to be able to worship and have a liberty that should be the right of every human being on the planet. But it did not come at a small price. Extraordinary sacrifice, difficult circumstances, and opposition that would have caused most people to simply say, it's not worth it. But the Zionist movement brought people who had been scattered across the earth for 2,000 years back to the homeland. And over these years, we have seen the dry bones come to life as the prophet promised they would. And we have seen the desert bloom. And when people say, why do you keep coming to Israel? I say, because God is up to something incredible there, and I don't want to miss it. And I've been watching it for all these many years. When I say there's similarity, I always remind people that there is no explanation for Israel, nor is there an explanation for the United States apart from the intervention of God. Now, the cynics scoff at that, and they think that we shouldn't be talking in such terms of spirituality and religion. But quite frankly, I don't see how anyone with a semblance of intelligence can see the miracle of Israel, or for that matter, the miracle of the United States, and come to any other conclusion that this is not just man's doing, this is God's doing. And it is a reminder to us all that yes, God did give his promise to the people of this land. And it's why when people say, well, what do you think about the occupied territory? I say, oh, it's occupied, all right, by the people who have the title deed and who have an indigenous sovereign right to be in this land. It's occupied by the people who own it. You will never hear me use the term West Bank, because Judea and Samaria are not the West Bank of something. They are the land that God has given to his chosen people. It's irrational to me to think that somehow there are those who believe that if Israel just continues to give more and more land away, they will get peace, when in every single situation, without exception, when they give away land, they get less land and they get less peace. And I'm so grateful that there are many courageous Israelis who truly recognize that there can be no two-state solution, because nobody can simply say, yes, even though the land is ours, and even though we have the title deed, we're simply going to just allow people who don't even acknowledge our existence to take a big chunk of it. Jerusalem is the undisputed and undivided capital of the Jewish state, and it always has been. And no other people have ever called Jerusalem home and capital. And when the United States under President Trump moved the embassy here, I was there in that ceremony, and I wept, because it was surreal to sit there and finally see the United States honor a promise that it had been making for 30 years under both Democrat and Republican presidents, who always found an excuse why not to do it. 2 weeks after the president made the announcement that he was going to move the embassy, I had the opportunity to visit with him in the White House. Now, granted, I probably got in because my daughter worked there, and that maybe was my ticket, I'm not sure. But just the two of us were having a conversation, and I said to him, Mr. President, I know that every single world leader from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, all begged you not to make this decision. The State Department urged you not to move the embassy. Oh, it would just blow the world up. It would cause such violence and upheaval. Many in your own staff have told you not to do it. And I asked him, Mr. President, why did you do it? His answer, I'll never forget. It was simple, and here it was. He looked at me, he shrugged his shoulders, and he said, because I said I would, and it was the right thing to do. And how grateful. A simple recognition that he had made that promise, and he kept it. But more importantly than that, it was the right thing to do. I am convinced that those who bless Israel will be blessed. And I want the United States never to forget that we don't have a better ally and a more appropriate partner for world security and safety than we have here in the state of Israel. Senator, I'm grateful for what you're leading in a reform that will only make your democracy stronger, not weaker. By creating accountability among the branches of government, something we tend to take for granted in the United States, it only helps to serve the purpose. But the extraordinary controversy that you have found yourself embroiled in also gives me a great deal of comfort, because I can go back to the United States and I can tell my American political friends, guys, you think we are divided over here. You need to go to Israel because you ain't seen nothing yet. They wrote the book on it. But it is also a sign of a healthy democracy when people can disagree and when people can even take to the streets to express themselves. Because if anyone tries that in Tehran, their blood will be on the street before the end of the day. I salute you, my Israeli friends. I'm deeply grateful for your willingness to continue to fight the good fight, to see the innovations that have taken this country in the 50 years I've been coming from a sleepy country that was struggling economically in every way to become the powerhouse of the world in technology and innovation, in medical advancement. Many of my friends in America, their lives have been saved because of the technology that was developed here in Israel, even though a lot of Americans aren't even aware of it. And of all the things, I want to thank you for the seedless watermelon and the cherry tomatoes. Yes, those are all wonderful things. But more than anything, I thank you for standing tall for a nation that believes that there will never, ever again be a time when the Jewish people are chased from one nation to the other, and that they will have to live in the fear that someone will come and annihilate them. And my prayer is that there will never be a time that Israel will have to stand alone, because the Americans will stand with you, because we share the values and the commitment to our future. My deepest thanks, my apologies for leaving, because as patient as you are, United Airlines is not. But thank all of you. I look forward to my next visit. It won't be long. I'll be back, and again and again and again. And in the meantime, may God richly continue his blessings upon this land that he has set apart for the Jewish people. God bless you, and thank you.